672454356. I repeat, 672454356. 698557578. 698557578. Thank you.
If I'm supposed to throw a question to the audience, I would like to ask them, at the end of digestion, how are proteins stored in the body? How are carbohydrates stored in the body? In what form? And how are lipids stored in the body? How are proteins stored at the end of digestion in the body? In what form? How are fats stored in the body? In what form? And how are carbohydrates stored in the body? In what form? I'll be expecting the answer, but I may give the answer before I go.
So now,
so to make sure our listeners are following, I'll just give us a brief rundown of what we have just talked about. I found it easier understanding stuff in school by making very brief and straight to the point summaries. All of us know we those of at some point when the teacher got talking. So we're talking about nutrition today in the studio, and our teacher first mentioned ingestion, where the students must have picked up that ingestion, it involves the teeth, the tongue, then the bolus is formed, and then it passes to the esophagus. Then the next stage of nutrition, digestion, it starts occurring in the mouth, and then it takes place too in the stomach and the intestines. So enzymes are needed for the digestion. We need to take note of the particular enzymes needed, the salivary amylases, and all the other enzymes which were mentioned. Then we talk about absorption, which occurs in the small intestines, and assimilation, which is when the nutrients in the food now are carried to the various parts of the bodies where it's needed, and it's carried from the intestines by the mesenteries. Yes. So just to make sure the students were following, if in case you're having your jotters, you may want to note that.
I have this question. Since we are talking on nutrition, there is the information around that when a lady gives birth, the first breast milk is very, very nutritive. So I don't know, can you please give us more insight on that?
Yes, the first milk contains colostrum, which is a very rich protein. You know, the protein in milk is called casein, but that first milk, if you look at it, is straw-like, it is yellow, it is very rich. That's why women are always advised to breastfeed their children, because it goes a long way in boosting their immune system. It's different from, it's natural and very rich. It's different from the manufactured milk. And as time goes on, the quality of the milk can never be like the first milk that comes out. That is why they advise that at least even for 6 months you should breastfeed your children, even if you want to stop after, exclusively.
For 6 months.
Yes, so it's safe to say the colostrum is like God's first vaccine to the child.
Yes.
Because that's the baby's first prevention mechanism from infections, because the colostrum is also very rich in antibodies. Yeah. The antibodies from the mother, antibodies are what fight infections. The antibodies from the mother pass through the colostrum to the baby. So that's the baby's first defense against infections.
Okay, so we'll continue on nutrition with the different classes of food, because we have been talking here on how food is being digested. Now let's talk on the various classes of food. The first class of food we'll talk about is carbohydrate.
Starch, power.
Yes, carbohydrate, starch,
cocoyam.
That's very common. Yeah, we know that we can get that from cocoyams. We get that from rice, bread, anything, those starchy foods that you eat. Yeah, so carbohydrates are the building blocks of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are called sugars. Yes, the building blocks of carbohydrates are the monosaccharides, which means that they have just one molecule of sugar. And we have 3 types of monosaccharides. We have the glucose, fructose, and galactose. I'll repeat again. You have glucose, fructose, and galactose. Yes, every sugar, when I say that the building blocks, it means that every carbohydrate, every sugar contains molecules of glucose or fructose and or galactose. Yes, so Now we have monosaccharides which have one sugar, we have the disaccharides which have two sugars, and we have the polysaccharide, the oligosaccharides and the polysaccharides. The polysaccharides are very complex network structures of many monosaccharides and disaccharides joined together. So the common, as I said monosaccharides are glucose, fructose, and galactose. The disaccharides are maltose, lactose, and sucrose. Glucose, a combination of one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose gives you sucrose, while a combination of one molecule of glucose and one molecule of glucose gives you maltose, and a combination of one molecule of glucose and one molecule of galactose gives you lactose. Sucrose is what is a sugar that we take in the house. Our normal sugar is sucrose. Yes, if those terms should not confuse you. Then lactose is a sugar that is found in milk. Yeah, the sugar that when you taste milk is sweet is lactose.
This one makes milk milky.
Then maltose
is a sugar. I concentrate the sugar. I take half a cup or 1/3 a cup and put the same 3 cubes of sugar. Am I at more risk than someone who's taking a cup with 3 cubes of sugar?
The first thing I want to say is that this aspect of controlling sugar is very misconstrued, because, as I said, sugar is a basic block of carbohydrate. Some people think that when you eat a lot of cocoyams and somebody who eats sugar, he is more at risk, and you are not at risk because you ate cocoyams. When at the end of the day, the cocoyam is going to be broken down to glucose, to a sugar. Yes, and which can increase your sugar level. Your sugar level. Yes, eat healthy. Try to reduce your consumption of sugar. I cannot quantify it, but what I want to tell you that there's a mechanism. The body itself has a mechanism to regulate sugar. Yes, the mechanism of insulin, which I've not yet. I don't think I brought it out in my course. There is in digestion, the insulin, which is produced by the pancreas, the beta cells of the islets of Langerhans in the pancreas, which are responsible for breaking down sugar. Whenever you eat so much sugar, it realizes that the body's sugar is higher than normal. It breaks down the sugar to glycogen and it stores it in the muscles and in the liver. That is the role of insulin in the body, because the normal insulin level in the body, the normal sugar level in the body should range from 80 to 120 milligrams per deciliter cube. So when it's above that, that is when insulin plays that role. And there's also that misconstrued conception of diabetes, eating so much sugar and having diabetes. Diabetes is not as a result of eating so much sugar. Diabetes is as a result of failure of the pancreas or the pancreas to produce insulin. Because if you eat so much sugar, as I told you, that normally it has to regulate it. But if you have a failure in your system producing insulin, then you come up with diabetes.
Because you must eat, and almost everything has sugar.
Yes, you must eat. And now you start realizing that you start eating food that does not even have sugar, in order to balance up. When you're already a diabetic patient, you start eating food that does not even have sugar at all, or when those were things that you were eating normally.
Yes, no wonder a lot of the older people in our environment suffer from high sugar levels. I think it attributes to the fact that we're just only realizing now as Africans that sugars are highly concentrated in carbohydrates. Because I remember growing up, my parents would tell me, eat this fufu corn, but don't suck that sweet. You have diabetes. You have high sugar problems. So I actually think, yes, I understand now where the flow that comes from.
We have those concepts like that, maybe. Yeah. Like, if I may divert a bit, I can talk about pneumonia. People think that cold causes pneumonia, but pneumonia is caused by microorganisms.
Yes, that's right.
Streptococcus pneumoniae.
Yes.
But it is encouraged. A cool environment favors its action.
It's action.
So it is So, but people just think that the school here.
If I expose myself, I'll get pneumonia.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so now sorry for that deviation. We'll go now to we're on proteins. I was saying that 16% of your body mass response is protein. Yes, protein constitutes about 16% of your body mass. It is responsible for building tissues, cells, muscle, anything in your body. From keratin in your nails to your hair are all proteinaceous. So if I ask, what if somebody asks you the role of protein, you can imagine. So you just know that it is responsible for building tissues and organs in the body. Everything in the body, apart of the bones, are protein. Then where do we get protein from? That one, I know most of you know that from meat, egg, milk.
Everything nice.
Everything nice now. Okay. So now the other nutrient will go to is fats. Fats, people say fats is also a nutrient in the body. Yes, it is also responsible for, it's also an energy building block in the body. Fats is used in the body in the absence of carbohydrate. During fasting, during excessive illness, when somebody cuts down, he cannot eat, the body has a mechanism of breaking down fats into energy, into ATP. No, it's not even ATP, it's ketone bodies, who are actually energy building bodies, are responsible for running the body. Another role of fats is that what? There are some vitamins in the body which are only soluble in fats. They are called fat soluble vitamins, like vitamin A, D, E, and K are there. So fats, lipids are responsible for transporting those nutrients from the alimentary canal, which we just discussed, to the cell and tissue where those vitamins are required. So those are roles of fats. It's also used in, at the level of the neurons. Yeah, they say that neural response. We have fatty tissues around. They call it myelin sheets. Yes, which are responsible for fats and adipose tissue in the body. They are responsible what's the word I use, to keep the heat within the body.
Okay, homeostatic purposes.
Yes. So the body should not be losing heat anyhow. Yes, it confines the heat in the body. That's the role of adipose tissue. That's also fats. So some people say that, oh, they say fat is bad. How can you be telling us that that's a nutrient, and why should we keep it? It is better to consume the fat, then you burn the fat down, than just excluding yourself from fat, because it is more dangerous just to exclude yourself from fat. Then the next nutrient is fiber. Do you know any food that gives fiber? Fiber mostly from vegetables. Fiber, they say most of eru. Let me give a very common example. Most of eru is fiber, because when you eat eru, you see you send it out the way you ate it. You send it out the way you ate it, because it is not digested. Fibers are not directly digested, but they are very important in the body because they are responsible for what they absorb water during the process of digestion, and we know how important water is. If you eat and there's no water, the food cannot be digested, cannot be absorbed, which is the third stage of nutrition. So fibers are very, very important. They play that very important role. And another important role, they are responsible for increasing stool size.
Stool size.
Yes, stool size. People, not going to the toilet is a problem. If you see you cannot go to the toilet for 1 week, it's a very serious problem. So fibers are responsible for increasing stool size, so that you could defecate and free your bowels and feel free. Then we have minerals. Minerals like what? We have minerals like calcium, iron, and zinc. They are also very important nutrients in the body. They are metabolic catalysts for metabolic reaction. What do I mean? If I have to make an example, put in an exemplary form, I'll say when you want to carry a child to school, you hold his hand and cross the road, and you leave him, he enters the bus and comes back. That role you are playing the role of a catalyst, and that's the role of ions, minerals in the body. Yes, they facilitate chemical reactions. in the body. So they are very, 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 very important.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
And I think the classes of food, from what I can see, each class has its place where it undergoes digestion. Like carbohydrates is in the mouth with saliva amylase, as you say.
Yes.
Yes. Then proteins is down in the small intestine. Yes, by the peptones and the peptins. Then the fats and lipids are in the large intestines, duodenum and all this.
When I carbohydrate, I cannot say carbohydrate digestion starts in the mouth.
Okay, starts in the mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because all of them end in the ileum, where they are being absorbed into the bloodstream, where they get to the various cells and the tissue in which they are required.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now let me remind you of the questions. We are waiting for you to call us and win beautiful prizes, cash prize and hand sanitizers, liquid. So the first question is, what prevents food from going through the respiratory tract? What prevents food from going through the respiratory tract? Second question, what causes gastric ulcer? What causes gastric ulcer? The third question, what are the stages of nutrition? You can call us on 672-454-356, 672-454-356, or 698-557578.
So I'll be taking us through the process of respiration. We'll be going through the topic respiration today, seeing as we have very limited time to the close of our session today. We will just do a very brief summary, expecting that we're all following very attentively and getting the important aspects. So respiration is the process of air passing in and out of the body for efficient gas exchange to happen. As every biological process goes, it's never as we see it. One thing must break down to give another. So respiration has 5 main parts. There's pulmonary ventilation. From the name pulmonary, we see it involves the lungs. We have external respiration, which occurs in the alveoli. We have transport of gases, which is the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide through veins and arteries. We have internal respiration, and then we have cellular respiration. So I'm going to give us a very brief details about each of the aforementioned topics.
If I come in there, I know what about aerobic and anaerobic, or do we just dwell on aerobic because we're talking about respiration in human beings?
Yes.
Yeah, but I just want the students to also know that there could be anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration involves oxygen taken in and carbon dioxide is sent out, while anaerobic involves carbon dioxide being taken in and oxygen being sent out, especially in plants. In the day, plants do anaerobic respiration in the day and aerobic at night.
Yes, thank you very much for that addition. So we're dwelling explicitly on animal ventilation this evening, on animal respiration this evening. So the organs included in the ventilation process, we have the ribs, the intercostal muscles, and the diaphragm. So during ventilation is the act of breathing. You breathe in and we breathe out. So when we breathe in, our internal intercostal muscles relax and our external intercostal muscles contract. This then causes the movement of these muscles cause our rib cage to go up and out, causing our diaphragm to contract, pulling downwards. The lung volume is then increased and the air pressure decreases. When the air pressure decreases, the body tries to regulate the air pressure by causing a rush of air into our bodies. When this happens, we can say we have succeeded in taking in a breath. And exhalation, the reverse happens. The internal intercostal muscles instead contract. The external intercostal the internal intercostal muscles contract while the external intercostal muscles relax. Yes. Then the rib cage goes downwards and inwards. The diaphragm relaxes, moving upwards, and then the lung volume decreases, causing air pressure to increase. When this happens now, the air goes out. So that's a summation of what occurs during ventilation. We should be able to distinguish between breathing in and breathing out, the various things which play a part in it, the ribs, the intercostal muscles, and the diaphragm. We should be able to explain what happens with each of those things during ventilation. We'll move to the second part of respiration, which is called external respiration. This occurs in the alveoli. So the alveoli is a part of our bodies. It's found in the...
Yeah, it's found in the lungs. There are small, tiny sacs found in the lung. You know, from the mouth, from the trachea, we have the bronchi.
Yes.
From the bronchi further differentiates to the bronchioles. There are a lot of bronchioles. We have primary, we have secondary bronchioles, and respiratory bronchioles, which finally end up in small, tiny sacs called the alveoli. So the alveoli are actually responsible for the exchange of air between the exchange of oxygen, the oxygen moving from the inhaled oxygen to the bloodstream, and the exhaled the carbon dioxide back out. All that process takes place in the alveoli. So actually the mechanism of respiration takes place in the alveoli.
Yes, so to better carry out its function, the alveoli is well adapted for gaseous exchange by having very thin walls, so that the air doesn't have to battle through many cells before going out. It has a very large surface area. The surface is moist and it has several capillaries. Yeah. So the fun fact, 5 to 8 liters of air enters our lungs, and 0.3 liters of oxygen enters the blood from the alveoli after every breath we take.
Yeah.